afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Abilities Film Festival. We are so excited about yet another full day of Real Abilities programs. I have to admit that short films are some of my favorite programs at any festival, especially Real Abilities, some of our strongest materials. Let me note first that we have live transcript. Please click on the live transcript box, and our lovely live stenographer, Lauren, will be transcribing everything everyone says up here and making us all very self-conscious. I'll also describe myself. Speaking of self-conscious, I am a very pale white man with not much of a hairline left. Off to the fun stuff. You are here for our first group of short films. We had so many this year. We've divided them into 4 collections. Check them all out. They're all wonderful, and try to group them in a way that makes sense. And this is really one of the more fun groups too. So I'm really excited about this Q&A. We love all of our children equally. I want to give a huge, huge thank you to all of our partners that make this possible, to Vimeo specifically. You saw their trailer a moment ago. Vimeo is our conversation sponsor this year and makes all these conversations accessible and possible. And every year we try to present in, we try to present in many locations to make this festival more accessible. And the New York Public Library has been a partner for many, many years, and I don't have the count anymore, but have been a fantastic partner and a real part of Real Abilities. And we're excited to include our partners as organizations that are involved with different conversations. And this one is presented by the New York Public Library. And before I hand things over to Moriba Jackson from the New York Public Libraries to say a few words, I just wanted to mention that if you of course, our audience, should be a part of this conversation as well. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. If you can't put them in the chat box, signal to us and we'll find a way to ask the question for you or to bring you online. Please be a part of the conversation. And now to introduce our moderator and a little bit more about the New York Public Library, over to Moriba Jackson. Moriba, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone that's here today joining us. Welcome to the Real Ability Short Film Panel Question and Answer session. My name is Moriba Jackson. I am one of the librarians at the New York Public Library's newly renovated Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library. We're located at 40th and 5th Avenue, diagonally across from the Library with Lions. So if you haven't visited, please plan to do so. We are reopening and providing more and more services as the city reopens during all of this unprecedented pandemic and everything else that's going on in the world these days. But today we are most pleased, before I go on, let me describe myself. I identify as a Black woman. I think I'm brown skinned, curly hair, sitting on a red sofa against a brick background, very New York environment. And that said, thank you for coming to join us today, as we are most pleased to continue our partnership with the Marlene Marison JCC Manhattan Festival for this online film festival. It's a wonderful, wonderful partnership that we have indeed been really pleased to be a part of for so many years. And I know I've been working with it for at least 5 years, and I believe the person before me was working with it several years before that. So it's been quite a while. That said, the Real Abilities Film Festival, New York, is the largest festival in the country, dedicated to promoting awareness and appreciation of the lives, stories, and artistic expressions of people with disabilities. Today, we are pleased to share a Q&A panel with creators of the following short films: How Much Am I Worth?, Simple, and my favorite title that I hope I'm going to pronounce it right, Verisimilitude. I think I almost got it. Well, I'm glad our moderator is here to start our conversation, and I'm happy to introduce the award-winning, critically acclaimed actress, singer, composer, lyricist, director, producer, and teacher, Miss Anita Hollander.
Thank you so much, Maurita. Thank you also for your support all of these years. We couldn't do it without you. And thank you for being here today. I'm just so glad to see you. And I'm Anita Hollander. I'm National Chair of SAG-AFTRA Performers with Disabilities. And as you heard, I do a lot of things. Anything you'll pay me for, I'll do. But anyway, I'm very pleased to be here today voluntarily to lead this incredible panel at Real Abilities. And I am a Caucasian woman with short brown hair, blue eyes. I'm wearing a black turtleneck with a pink rose quartz, try to keep me calm. And behind me is a blank white wall of my kitchen. It's the only white wall in my apartment in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. And now I will introduce the most important people here today. And those are the people who created these wonderful films. From How Much Am I Worth? We have Rachel Handler. And we have, just wave so we know you're here. And Katrina Rubenis Stevens. There you are, yes. And from Verisimilitude, we have David Proud, all the way over from London. And Justin Edgar, is Justin here, David? I think, Justin, yay, hi, yay, you're here. And from Single is Ashley Ashley Eakin. So pleased to have you here. I think you're all incredibly wonderful. We're also representing the film Wiggle Room, which I'll weave into it. We unfortunately didn't get to have a guest from Wiggle Room, although we deeply appreciate that film so much. Okay, so let's jump in. Rachel, I'm starting with you because I have known you for a long time, and you always do such great work. And you've been a prolific director of films for the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge since literally the first season, 7 years ago, something like. And not to mention, you are a wonderful screenplay writer. I've been very, very honored to read some of your great screenplays. So for those who don't know what the Easter Seal Disability Film Challenge is, I would love you to tell us about it, because you're probably the biggest expert on it at this point, besides Nick Novicki, its creator. So tell us a little bit about it, and then how it's affected your work as a filmmaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anita. I love doing the Disability Film Challenge because, I became an amputee in 2012. And I was doing a lot of musical theater before that, performing at Bucks County Playhouse. And so when I lost my leg in a car accident, I was totally thrown for a loop. I had never even considered acting for film and TV before. But like a year after I lost my leg, I got cast in a movie and I got flown to Louisiana, and it was such a cool experience. And I started thinking, maybe this is the next step. I still love musical theater and I still do it, but maybe this is the next step for me. So then in 2014, the Disability Film Challenge started, and I was like, it's serendipitous, I have to do it. So it was my first time writing a short film. I entered, I won Best Actor, and I was hooked. I did take a few years off every now and then for work or other things, but I keep coming back to the Film Challenge because it's a great way to just put a team together, write the story that you want to tell, and then just have a film ready to go for the challenge and also for other film festivals. So I think it's an amazing way to just try out making a short film if you've never made one before, and to make a short film if you are like a seasoned professional, to just go for it and see what you can do in the span of like, you know, I think we had 5 days this year. So it's a brilliant challenge, and I can't thank Nick Novicki for starting it enough. I feel like he just started it just for me, and I'm just so honored to have been part of it for so long and have won some awards through it. And you know, work begets work, so other people see the film and then they ask me to be in their movie, or they ask me to consult on a script for them, and that's what it's all about, just making connections, getting our voices out there. So that's why I started doing it.
Thank you, Rachel. And it's so important that you said that, because for all those people watching who are artists with disabilities, whether you're an actor or a filmmaker or a director, or a writer, producer, whatever, it's an amazing thing. It started out was only a 48-hour challenge that you had to make the thing. And I did one of those. And, you know, only 48. And then we went into the pandemic, and now suddenly you didn't have locations and all that stuff. So we've learned how to be our own director, producer, writer, stage manager, production assistant, and as well as what we do as performers. So thank you for that incredible description. I really appreciate it, and I love your work. And to talk a little bit about your actual film, How Much Am I Worth? I want to talk to Katrina. Kat. Kat, can you tell us how Rachel found you, and how did you find this experience of mixing diversity, disability, and insurance all together like a big collision, which are all three extremely important right now? There isn't one on that list that isn't important. So please tell us a little about that if you can.
Absolutely. I'll start with how Rachel and we actually met at a different film festival, the Westfield Film Festival. Back in 2018, we both had films that were showing, and we kind of hit it off. We found out that we lived in the same neighborhood. And so that next year, when it was time for the Disability Film Challenge, Rachel reached out to me and was like, do you want to come on board and help? And I was like, of course. And so, you know, this year marks our third film together doing that challenge. And it's just a blast. But I think How Much Am I Worth, which was our film from last year, is the most special film. You know, you can maybe tell I'm British, so I come from a country where we don't have to worry about health insurance. In the same, we do have to worry, but we don't have to worry in the way that, oh, I can't afford to get an ambulance, and I might not be able to afford the surgery because my job doesn't provide me with healthcare. My whole 15 years of living in this country, I've been a freelance. I've never had healthcare through a job. And so, you know, luckily I get it through my partner now, but I spent years trying to figure out how to make rent and healthcare plus living in New York. And so when the challenge came up last year of doing a documentary, and Rachel had the idea, the spark from a bill that she received for anesthesia that came out of nowhere. It just made sense that, you know, we make this film about how the struggle that not only is it tough dealing with health insurance as a person that doesn't have a disability, but what is it like for someone that does have a disability that's needing to see doctors on a regular basis? And then when they suddenly tell you that, hey, we're not going to cover this bill, it's infuriating. And so for me, I had to help tell this story. You know, I've never, when I was in England, had to worry about these things. And now I mean, I had surgery myself at the beginning of the year, and I receive 5 or 6 different statements in the mail every single week. And I'm like on the phone with them all the time. Like, which ones are you covering? Which ones are you not covering? And it's just nobody, you don't know until they bill you.
That's right,
Yeah.
Kat. Thank you so much. And I also appreciated that your film was diverse in the intersectionality of people of color, many different types of people, all experiencing this it didn't matter what color you
No.
were, but everyone, including myself. So I personally glommed onto this film for that reason. There's nobody who hasn't been affected by it. So thank you for once again. And I want to move on to verisimilitude because I was so excited to watch Ruth Madeley in a film that we actually got as a short, and to know that my husband's a big fan of hers from years and years, and not years and years, but the show years and years. And David Proud, so great to meet you. I love when I get so many Brits in one place. Anyways, just how great it is that you got to work with Ruth on this film. And I was curious, as you as director and she as an actor had ever worked together on a story or worked together on this story, or was it in any way autobiographical?
Yeah, well, we'd been rumored to kind of work together on a few things, and that just happened to be the first thing that kind of that went into kind of production, really. So I've kind of progressed less from the actor more to the writer, and so a lot of the stuff I'm developing had kind of her in mind for it. But with this, it's actually a film that Justin wrote after years of working with me as an actor, and me kind of moaning about different things and kind of saying about having to be a consultant for people. And we both really wanted to say something about the practice of cripping up, and of people, non-disabled artists playing disabled characters, and do it in a kind of sarcastic English way that I think that we can get away with being a little bit sarcastic. And it was the first time Ruth actually was directed by anybody in a wheelchair. We both have exactly the same disability, and we were physically both on this level where everyone else was kind of above. So there was so many times I was able to just have shorthand and say, oh, it's like that time when you know this happens. She's like, yeah, totally get it. So it's an absolute joy, and I think every now and again all the things align to make a project really special, and this one really has caught on. But the subject of, is it right for non-disabled people to play disabled parts, we need to be talking about it a little bit more, I think. And I think if our little cheeky short can make people chuckle and consider it, then then I'm happy, really.
And that pretty much sums up what I do as the National Chair of Performers with Disabilities in America. And we always look at the UK as the people who do it better than we have, and who looked into it a lot sooner than we did, including the BBC. And so we always look to you guys and go, okay, we could be really doing a lot better. So thank you. That's fantastic. I also meant to mention, when we talked about insurance issues and intersectionality, Wiggle Room, the film, also has that. So anybody who had watched that and said, why aren't you talking about that? I want to throw that in there, that even though we don't have a guest, that was, we got a chance to double up on that, insurance and people of all kinds. So David, thank you so much for, sorry, switching back and forth. I'm that kind of person. Anyways, Justin, my dear, as producer, I want you to be very proud of this film, which reflects the truth of performers with disabilities, the reality of it, which many of us here in the US have experienced, and probably all over the world too, because the International Association of Actors, Federation of Actors, is also looking at it a little tiny bit. We're trying to get them to look more. But was there some experience in your own life, because I don't know you well, I don't know you, so in your own life, that motivated you to bring this truth to the screen?
Well, I'm not a wheelchair user. I'm hard of hearing, hence these headphones which block out all other noise. So I've always been interested in disability rights, and the disability rights struggle. But I was actually at Real Abilities in 2009 with a film that I directed, which starred David, a feature film, and I suppose it grew out of, as David said, it grew out of the kind of frustrations and the expressions of that, and the dialogues and conversations we had about that. So I felt there was always a space to do a film which interrogated, the phenomenon of cripping up. And I always knew that it wasn't a film that I should direct as somebody who's not a wheelchair user. And I actually wrote it for David. So before Ruth became involved with the project, I wrote it, and the lead was a a man. And I thought, oh, well, David could play this role because he's very modest, but of course he is a brilliant actor. You know, he's acted in so much stuff over the years on British TV, especially. He said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to get Ruth to do it. And actually in changing, that was the genius of it in David's part, really, is in changing the gender of the main protagonist. You know, I think it really made the film work a lot better because she comes up against this star who this kind of male vanity, which is quite funny, you know, to watch them spark off each other. So it was really, the inspiration was really in that, in those dialogues and conversations with David. You know, that's where it came from. And I think that myself and David as well, we do a lot of work with the British Film Institute. We sit on the advisory panel on disability, which is quite influential in sort of world of British film. And also we've dealt a lot with the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, BAFTA, on their policy towards disability. And I feel like the film seemed to hit at about the right time. It was actually first written, we wrote it about 5 or 6 years ago, but it seemed to hit just at the time when those BFI panels and BAFTA panels, and I'm sure SAG-AFTRA here, you know, we're having those same conversations. And it was perhaps a little bit ahead of its time back when we wrote it, you know. So I think things happen at the right time and come together, and Ruth had a window at the right time. You know, it just seemed to be one of those things that was a talking point when we did it.
Wow. Okay. So my mind just got blown because now I realize why David looks so familiar in so many ways. And I should have looked that up. Anyways, was it Special People? Was that what it was called?
It was indeed. Yeah. And we had a great screening.
Yeah. Well, that shows how long I've been with Real Abilities. So, wow. So
we had a lovely trip to New York.
Oh,
I'll add that I think Justin holds the record for producing the most films at Real Abilities. This is really an amazing award to have. And over the years, I mean, Justin has produced so many fantastic films that we're really proud to include in our festival.
Wow. Okay.
Well, thank you. And you're great hosts.
Mind completely blown. And now thank you for your patience, Ashley Eakin. I'm so glad to have you here too. And especially because Single is such I'm an amputee, and Single spoke to me in many ways. And in moments when I was like, okay, that was a bit harsh. and then there's so much humanity in both characters. There's no single thing. She's not one way or another way. She's many different things. She's complex. And so is he. I love that so much. And Ashley, you're so wonderful. So in your writing and directing, your incredible writing and directing, it's great, but your casting choices were what intrigued me. Did you write the screenplay before you knew the cast? Also, I noticed that you described yourself online as an artist with a disability, and if you're comfortable sharing that with us, that would be great. But if you're not comfortable, who cares? That may be too many questions at once, just about the casting thing, the story thing, the disability thing. Go ahead, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley Eakin. I'm the writer-director. I'm a white woman with blonde hair. I'm sitting in front of a blue wall. And so I was born with a rare bone disease. It's called Ollier's and Maffucci syndrome. And it really kind of disrupts the growth of your bones. It causes cartilaginous tumors. I've had ovarian cancer because of it, 28 surgeries. It's been a whole thing. So my disability is really, you know, as I mentioned, rare. So the first time I ever really connected with a community of like young disabled people was I went to a retreat, and most of the women on this retreat had an upper like limb difference. A lot of them were congenital amputees. And I met these people who were just very sassy and bold and interesting. And I applied this project to the AFI directing workshop for women. And I was going to do a whole different story that didn't really have to do directly with disability. And I ended up meeting all these women. And on the plane home, I completely rewrote a new story that really, it dealt a lot with my kind of internalized ableism and growing up and rejecting the idea of being disabled, even though I am disabled, which was just an interesting journey. And I thought about, you know, I've done a lot of dating, and I thought about if I got set up with someone who also had a disability, how would I feel? and I'm not Kim, the character in the movie. She's definitely amplified and very sassy and intense. And, but it's kind of fun to explore that. It's almost like a cathartic, sometimes those people will say things really pitying you and you want to say something back, but it's not worth it because then your whole life would be saying something back every single time. So I got to kind of express that through a character. And as far as acting, Jordan Wisely, who's the guy who plays Jake, I had him in mind when I wrote the script. I usually find people and I have them in mind before I audition them just to help me creatively, like imagine a person. And so I thought of him, but I knew he's a reality TV star. He's been on MTV's The Challenge. And he also is like a model and does some like clothes designing. And I was like, there's no way he can act. I'm just gonna not have very high expectations and not get disappointed. But we had him audition and he was just like so natural, so charming, like perfect for the part. And so he actually helped us read with a bunch of different people. So he was kind of our chemistry test constant. And I mean, casting for this project for the lead role of Kim was probably like 4 or 5 months. And a lot of it was me DMing people on Instagram and saying, hey, I think I've had Rachel, I've had everyone in the community audition, but Delaney Feener, who ended up landing the role, was really the only person who got this very nuanced sassiness. It's like so specific. And she just had this thing that I was like, oh, okay, this is it, and her then chemistry with Jordan was really amazing. And a lot of it was, sometimes I just let them chat and then I'd say, let's shoot this. I love the conversation that's happening here. And they have such good chemistry. And, it's more of an anti-romantic comedy where it doesn't end where you would sometimes hope it would go, but it's great because you kind of wonder, like, could they have ended up together? They have such, good back and forth. So that's how that process went. Yeah.
No, it's wonderful. I love moderating panels because every time I learn something like that I really didn't expect to hear. And that was a cool journey. I think a question actually may have come in. You talked about how long it took you to cast it. But did I notice somebody asking how long it took you to write it, to act?
Yeah. So, if anyone out there is a female filmmaker and interested in directing the AFI Directing Workshop for Women, they choose 8 women a year. It's a fully free program, and AFI is very, expensive. So it's this amazing kind of opportunity, and they help cultivate women in their shorts and, their craft and getting into the industry. And I wrote this for that. So I started writing this in August. And since I changed my idea last minute, I wrote this within like 2 days. I was just like putting it all on the page. And then, I didn't make it. I wrote it in August, didn't actually make it until July. And so initially it really read like a play. It was, kind of like they go to dinner, they're not right, they end up at a beach, they have a chat at the end. And a lot of feedback from people was like, this feels more like a play. We like the bones of it, but you need it to feel more like a film and things actually happening. So we started kind of including the egg therapy session and things that visually were more intriguing, but getting across the same message of, 2 people with disabilities who have 2 different perspectives on life and how they, think about their disability and unpacking that internalized ableism. And, there's a lot of things going on in that film. And it was definitely a lot of rewrites. So like I always say, writing is rewriting, and that it changed dramatically. I read some old drafts and I'm shocked to where it ended up, but it was, just that first process for the short was like 2 days and then months and months of rewriting.
Thanks, Ashley. So cool. So cool. I think everybody who's watching this panel has learned 2 important things today, and that is AFI, American Film Institute, has a great program, and the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge is also a great thing. So there's like opportunities everywhere you look right now. Take advantage of them. I suggest you do that. And I would love to know from our moderator, from our staff, do we have more questions?
Yes, let me bring
Thanks,
on the line a question from the audience. We have Wendy on the line. Wendy.
Let's see.
There she is.
Hi, I'm actually Wendy's partner, and I had the question. I wanted to say, and I hope my question didn't appear rude, I enjoyed Verisimilitude very much. But at the ending, I don't know, somehow I wanted more. It's like she gets to the set, she sees this guy who's clearly, who's for lack of a better term, impersonating a disabled person. I was enjoying the movie so much up to that point. I went to, gee, what happens next? And then the film ends. Was there a different ending at one point?
Do you want to go, David? First of all, I should say, as a producer, you could do our PR for us, and because we want to do it as a feature film. So please, we want to make it longer. That's music to our ears. So sorry, David, jump in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, yeah, we wanted to leave the audience wanting more. But I guess the point what we were trying to wrap it up on is that she's asked to play a disability that isn't hers. So she has to kind of join the hypocrisy and the merry-go-round, because as an artist, I'd been asked to portray disability. I have spina bifida, but I'd been asked to portray things that I'm not. And it was kind of trying to spark that debate as to, where is the line? Is it okay for me to fake a different disability, but a non-disabled person can't fake any? So it was trying to kind of weave that in and tease and hopefully make people want a little bit more. But we're with you as well, because when we just watched it, we were just like, there's so much more we can do if we can have the budget to do it.
Anita, let me throw this a little bit back at you as well, because this is a debate and a conversation that you've really taken the lead on as far as Real Ability's selection process. And we're proud to say that our films, we look for authentic casting, and this is definitely something that we are very much interested in. Anita, did you want to share a little bit about this, just to explain to the audience a little bit more?
Yeah, I will say that for several decades now, I've been working at this very thing, not only for actors with disabilities, performers with disabilities to play characters with disabilities, but performers with disabilities to be auditioned for all kinds of characters. Last season on FBI Most Wanted, I played a landlady. She happened to have one leg, and the director said, yeah, don't wear your leg, go ahead, and now, because for years I've been saying we have something unique to offer, and it's not just about our disability, and it doesn't have to be explained in any role: a neighbor, a judge, a secretary, a receptionist, a sister, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, a mother, a grandmother, whatever. This is what we've been working toward all these years, because mainly I have a full resume of characters that have nothing to do with disability, but I've brought my unique circumstances to these roles, that some of which were classic musical theater roles, and so has Rachel done the same thing, and we don't explain it, and it doesn't matter. By the end, after about 5 seconds, people understand what the situation is and go on with it, keep moving with it. So this is what we've been fighting for all of these years, and we just continue to fight, because while television, I just want to say, representing performers with disabilities at SAG-AFTRA through incredible amount of fighting, cajoling, charming, arm pulling, leg pulling, everything, we actually in the last 3 years tripled our television employment of performers with disabilities. Movies are still way behind, although it's heartening to see a ramp at the Oscars this year. Even though Crip Camp didn't win, there was a damn ramp, and not unlike where the Tonys did not have a ramp. But we're finding our way through this thing, and although we have a long way to go, live theater has been ahead of the pack for a long time, and other regional theater. Broadway finally got the message, even though I've been yelling at them for years. And but it's a slow process of pushing a boulder up a hill, and then the boulder starts falling, and then you have to re-push it back up the hill, and that's what we've been doing. And films like these really do give us such a step forward. Real Abilities has been so great. It's been around since long before the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, but now the two of them are like pushing each other, and all of these different things that have come along have been helping to raise the consciousness and motivate people even more. And I deeply appreciate all of your work, everybody on this panel, including Isaac, to push that boulder with us so that we're not the only ones and we're not getting flattened by it, but continue to move. We have a long way to go, but we have come, we have made progress, and that's something a lot of times people forget.
I do feel we're amidst a revolution right now, and good things are happening. Does anyone else from the panel want to add on to that?
Oh, I just want to say really quickly, I've been a thorn in Isaac's side for years about the authenticity thing. And thank you, Isaac, for really saying to me finally, you know what? It's true. Authenticity rocks. I really, really deeply appreciate it.
I give Anita really, truly the complete credit for keeping Real Abilities honest. And this has been many years now that we've been aiming only towards responsible and authentic representations. And every year, I think it just gets better and more interesting. And this year we had really interesting questions of diversity when it comes to that, and like questions that Verisimilitude like brought up also, like can an actor with a disability play other disabilities, and how does that fit into this equation? So it's definitely something we're proud to be behind and to push this forward.
I can also say from kind of a bit of perspective from England as well, because I sit on the BAFTA film committee, and I think you're right, Isaac. There's a revolution happening, and I think what's changed is that we've had on-screen depictions of disability, but we're now being able to start telling our own narrative, and that's where the true power comes from, because you're going to have less stereotypical kind of portrayals, and it's hard to try and shift the industry from kind of what they know to somewhere a little bit more authentic, but it's happening, and I really feel like it's happening in America and the UK, and it's interesting the places that Justin and I have been asked to go and talk. We wouldn't have got in the door like even a couple of years ago, so I really feel like there is a change, and it's just really exciting to be part of these amazing films that help stimulate that conversation a little bit.
I think also, just to add to that, David, outside of industry, so many young people are identifying as disabled these days, whether it be because of social media or just a great awareness of disability. And I think that's really positive. There's a much bigger awareness than there ever has been of disability, which is great.
For
That's
sure.
great to hear that. Go ahead, Isaac.
I'll also add here at the festival, we're going to be hosting a few industry events, and really wanted to highlight this year, and this is something that connects all the films here, these first person narratives as far as films coming from within the disability community. And we have an industry event. We have a Black Future Month, which is highlighting actors and directors and filmmakers who are from the Black community with disabilities. We have the Game Changers panel, which was just pasted into the chat, which has some great filmmakers and actors who are going to be also discussing this topic more, and this revolution that's going on, including Lauren Ridloff and some writers and others that will be joining. And then we even have workshops through Lights Camera Access, which is one of our partners, who are also helping train more filmmakers with disabilities. That's all coming up this week, and please help spread the word and join us for those. And yes, I too want to give big credit to our partners at the Film Challenge, who have been partners now for many years and are creating a lot of the films that we get to then present here at Real Abilities. And I know they've just selected their finalists for this year's, and their winners will be announced soon. So it's an exciting time for Easter Seals as well. We do have a hand up from Rebecca Waldenberg. Rebecca, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sorry. Give me 1 minute because I lost the screen. Okay, I'm here. Hi. So I'm actually in high school and I loved all of the films very, very much. I found that How Much Am I Worth was like super educational, even though it was like 6 minutes long. And I was curious, some of the facts for, for the creators that are here, some of the facts that were, kind of brought up in the film are extremely alarming about insurance. And I was wondering if you did research or know about what that's like on the end of like for children and teens, and if it's as difficult, in that sense, to acquire help for your disabilities. Because obviously, I'd like love to learn more about that because I have peers that probably deal with that. So yeah.
That's a great question, Rebecca. Yeah, thank you. I would say it's just as hard for kids. You know, we had that one fact about how hard it is for getting approval for prosthetics within like a 1 year period. And when you're a kid, you're constantly growing and your body is changing. And you're going to need a different wheelchair, a different prosthetic leg or arm very, very quickly. And it's hard on families. A lot of families have to travel pretty far to somewhere like Shriners, where they will give you the, prosthetics or wheelchairs for free. But yeah, it's a lot for parents to have to navigate. It's like, yay, I'm a new parent. Yay, I have a child who happens to have a disability. And now, oh my gosh, is this gonna am I gonna have to take out a second mortgage on my house, So there are places like Shriners where you can get these things provided to you. But there's not a Shriners that's like, super close to a lot of people. So it can be a big, big hassle. Yeah.
I do want to share here another partner of ours. Penta Prosthetics is an organization that sends prosthetics to countries around the world that, believe it or not, have it even worse off than our healthcare systems, and to countries where people don't have access to any prosthetics at all. So they send used prosthetics that are not being used anymore to those countries. And it's a wonderful organization doing a lot of the work on the ground, and we're always happy to highlight our partners. I'll also note on the healthcare reform side, our film Not Going Quietly, which is our closing night film about Adi Barkan, which is a great film to check out in connection to this conversation. We're going to take one last question from LJ. LJ, you're on the air. We might have lost LJ, it seems. Oh, there we go. LJ, could you unmute? I could read the question. Is it truly acting if we demand producers cast a person with a disability within a particular role? Inclusion suggests we do not differentiate and include individuals with disabilities in all roles, just as we would want to include individuals of all backgrounds in all types of jobs. Anyone want to take this?
David, you've got an opinion.
I just wrote a little Twitter rant on this a little bit. So my Twitter is at Rachel Handler if you want to check that out, but I'll let someone else chat about it.
I definitely want to check that out. I think that there's a lived experience thing going on because a non-disabled actor just doesn't have the lived experience. So I think that there's certain roles where it becomes disrespectful to the disabled community to have somebody attempt to be that. So I think that there's a cultural sensitivity that goes in. Obviously, there's a scale and a spectrum everywhere from asthma, to a really severe disability. And I think that the argument about, well, everyone should play everyone only really holds water when the playing field is equal for everyone, and it's not at the moment. So disabled artists 100% should get first dibs on disabled parts. And there's certain parts that non-disabled people should never, ever, ever do because it's culturally insensitive. It's as similar to blacking up. It just shouldn't be done. It's hugely complex. And if you give producers even an inch of room to cast unauthentically, they'll do it. They'll take it. So we've got to try and actually show. And I know LJ actually asked about the scene with Ruth walking in our shot, in our short, and it was a very last minute thing. And it was to look at the fact of we had green screen legs to fake disability, and then you saw her feet, which are exactly the same as mine, which had, you know, toes kind of curled, and I have muscle wasting. And it was something I said to Ruth, I said, would you mind showing that? Completely okay if you don't. And she said, no, I completely get it. Fake versus real. And we have to show people that real is so much better. You don't want to drink fake Coke, you want Coke.
David, thank you so much, because I wanted to jump in there. And I'm glad you said the thing about the playing field. I've been screaming about the playing field for years. It's like, when we have leveled the playing field and when you will bring in performers with disabilities for auditions for these roles, then we're talking about something. But the whole idea of the green screen thing in verisimilitude is interesting, because when everybody tells me, well, that character has to run at the beginning, or that character has to dance at the beginning, and I say, well, isn't that interesting? You used green screen to go one direction. What about using green screen to go the other direction? So that if the most of the film is about the person when they are disabled, why can't you have green screen in the first 3 minutes when the person happens to not have the disability? As you can hear, there's so much to the rant, and David and Rachel and I have all been involved in this. But here's the thing: when you say, isn't it just acting? Excuse me, I didn't mean to put attitude on this. I'm going to say it much less attitude. When you say, isn't it just acting? Does somebody acting Black appeal to you? Somebody who's not Black acting Black? Tell me something about that. I mean, when an actor with a disability plays a role, they don't have to act the disability. They play the role. The role involves acting. It involves emotions and attitudes and feelings and life experiences that have nothing to do many times with the disability. So they don't have to worry about how they put their hand because they have CP, or how they have to, go around with a blindfold to know what it's like to be blind, because they don't have to do that. Now, here's the thing. People win Oscars when they play these roles, when they're not actors without disabilities play these roles and they get an Oscar. So this is going to be off color a little bit. When I say that Crip Camp, when it didn't win, it suddenly dawned on me the next day when Crip Camp didn't win the Oscar was, oh, right. They can't give the Oscar to Crip Camp, because if they do, then they won't be able to play Crips anymore because they got an Oscar. And oh my God, because so many people, so many actors have played these roles as strategically to get an Oscar. And here's the thing, it's not okay anymore. It is not okay anymore, because when you say, is it acting? I've been acting for over 50 years. I have one leg. Yeah, there are actors with disabilities, good actors. You've got David and Rachel here to prove it. You've got people here. I've worked at the Goodman Theater, for heaven's sake. I've done films, I've done television. It's not about whether that the fact that there are no disabled actors. There are hundreds of them. And thank goodness the Casting Society of America in America did put together an open call where they put hundreds of performers with disabilities on tape so that no casting director could ever say again, well, we just couldn't find them. They're in the Casting Society of America files. They can't say they can't find it. And I have noticed that since that happened, Russell Bose did that, president of the Casting Society of America, more and more, they are reaching out and looking, not just saying, well, I didn't, well, this agent just didn't have any in their pool, So sorry. Oh, so sorry. I know I'm going to hear in the board.
Let me throw one more out there just before, because this is fascinating and of course very important for everyone to have this discussion. I also want to talk about, emphasize, with respect to actors, so also, and this is something that connects all these films, to behind the scenes, people with disabilities working on the filmmaking process and the writing coming from a authentic place, and the storytelling, and actually the process itself, the directing. And I think we have here 3 directors with disabilities who really are great examples of that. I would love to hear from you all. Just to spell it out a little bit, why is it important for a person with disability to be part of the process behind the scenes as well? Ashley, could I start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think it's important because we do have this lived in experience. We see all the places and the pitfalls of stereotypes or themes that are more damaging to the community than helpful. And I think we're able to navigate that and kind of not do it, but then also you're able to have a certain amount of honesty that I think sometimes non-disabled people are scared to have. And I think that has been really prevalent in all the meetings I've had, any pitches. It's like I'm not scared to talk about disability in a certain way that maybe they are, which is sometimes where the stories go wrong, is they're trying to be sensitive, but it's actually damaging. I think there's just a whole kind of perspective that you bring to it that's helpful. So I've realized when I lean into disability and really telling my truth through my stories, they do better than the stuff that has nothing to do with that. They actually it's like a raw vulnerability and honesty that you can't really get unless you've lived this life.
Who wants to go next? Anyone else want to add?
I feel like I've been very lucky now to have consulted on some shows for Netflix and Disney that are including authentic casting, and they're, I'm not an actor in it, but they're hiring disability consultants now to make sure the story is not offensive and not damaging. And, some of us even ensure that the sets are accessible, the language they're using is accurate and correct. Like as an amputee, I'm consulting on a huge Disney movie now that cast an amputee, and I have to let them know, a lot of amputees don't prefer the word stump for their residual limb. And so it's okay to call it residual limb until the character tells you what they want to call it and things like that. So I think the industry is moving in a really great direction. And there are some amazing programs. Like I met Ashley at the Respectability Lab last year for filmmakers with disabilities. And I'm part of the Black Magic Collective, Writers on the Verge. And I think really the more writers with disabilities we can get, especially for TV, where it's really all about the writing, the better, because then we can tell our real authentic stories. And that's really what the film Kat and I just made is about. It's called So You Want to Be an Actor. And it really explores internalized ableism with my character who's typecasting herself and putting her in a box of, because I have this disability, I can only play these certain roles, instead of just being like, I'm a human being and I'm an amazing actress and I can play whatever role I want, So I think that it really starts, it's amazing to have so many talented actors with disabilities, but it's so true that it starts with getting us behind the scenes as well. And lucky enough, there are programs now specifically for writers, directors, producers with disabilities to really, meet other creatives and explore your talents and find out what your passion is and what you want to create.
That's so true, Rachel. And the networks, the major TV networks are doing much more writing stuff, opportunities. And I've noticed Respectability also has some idea, and I know you've been involved with some of their things of and lights, camera, access. I know I'm saying all these things. I hope you can hear these. Lights, camera, access, or LCA, is another group of people that are pushing to get people behind the camera, or on the news desk, or in all these different parts of the creation of content. I just wanted to throw in, LJ, I'm really sorry if I said anything like that was like really like outrageous. I do want to say that I am paying attention to what you are saying. And I don't think that anybody who is a person with a disability who goes into acting of their own free will makes a choice of whether they want to or they don't want to disclose or self-identify. Nobody is pulling somebody into a role who doesn't want to play a role. So as I did read your comment about that, and it's not somebody to go and handpick someone who doesn't want to be an actor and says, be in this film because you're the right disability. So I just wanted to make that very clear, that those of us on this panel go into this because this is what we love. And as far as just speaking personally, this is all I've ever wanted to do. And I started very, very early. This is just what we do. We're not trying to force anybody to play a role they're uncomfortable with. And I also tell people, if they're not comfortable with self-identifying, they don't have to. However, in this day and age, if they want to be an actor, self-identification can actually be a positive thing more and more, because the more we self-identify, the more we're here. And somebody said something about marketing. There's a whole population with money to spend that's disabled. So as sponsors are waking up to this. Toyota, I keep a watchdog report, like tons and tons of Target, I mean, all GM, all these companies that are going to sponsor your film, sponsor your TV show, because you're going to do authentic portrayals of people with disabilities, or you're hiring disabled actors to play any kinds of roles. I just wanted to say, I love everybody who's making comments and asking questions.
And
Can I just add to?
Sorry, yes, David.
Sorry, I was just going to add to what Rachel said actually as well, because consultancy should be the bare minimum that they do. It should be the minimum, not, we should be writing these stories. They're our stories. And the next thing is to just be able to write anything. I'm really fortunate that I've started to become a staff writer on the longest running continuing drama in the world over in the UK, and I'm just writing stories. And actors with disabilities should get to the point where they're just acting. But we need to take that ownership of our stories and go, yes, consultancy is great, but I'm adding content to your film. I get the writing credit, So I think we were being too polite about it. But I think we should be a bit more anarchistic and go, no, they're our stories, stop stealing them, because we're quite capable of telling our own stories.
And it should be the entire process. I mean, 20% of the people working on every film should be people with disabilities, or more than 20%. We are out of time. I do want to give another shout out actually to two other organizations that were mentioned here. Respectability is another partner of ours that's going to be leading one of these panels in the coming days. And also doing fabulous work as far as creating more inclusion in the film world. And also Black Magic has been a sponsor of ours and is helping all of our programs really get out there, and they're going to be leading one of the workshops that I mentioned earlier through Lights Camera Access. So thank you to everyone who's supporting. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this conversation. We have today two more conversations, Shorts 2 and Shorts 3 coming up at 4 and at 6 p.m. You have some time to watch in between, not too much time, so hopefully you're already started. Then at 8 p.m. tonight, we have the conversation for the film Crutch. And of course, more coming up tomorrow, and we're here till Wednesday. Please join us every day. Help us spread the word. Most importantly, somebody said something about the marketing, and yes, get people to see these films. And the more people see these films, that's the more sales these films have, and the more then these films will be made. Take an example from Best Summer Ever that's out there right now. Support inclusive films. Thank you all very much. Anita, thank you for moderating this wonderful conversation. Thank you again to the New York Public Library, and we'll hopefully see you all very soon. Have a good day, everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.